So imagine this. You're James, maybe a friend of yours, a genuinely kind, smart guy, but maybe, just maybe, a little too thoughtful for his own good.
Uh-huh.
He notices a small health thing. Nothing major, right? But his mind immediately jumps online, and boom, he's spiraling, deep into the scariest possibilities.
Oh, yeah, the WebMD effect.
Totally. Then he catches himself like, okay, well, I'm totally overthinking this, need to chill. But does he chill? No.
Oh, of course not.
Instead, he starts stressing about his thoughts about the health thing, like, should he see a therapist? What kind of therapy? His mind's just racing, debating options, arguing with himself, replaying old criticisms.
Magnifying every little flaw.
Exactly. Until they feel huge. An hour later, he's no closer to figuring out the original niggle, and he's just drowning in this storm of negative self-talk, feeling completely wiped out.
Wow. Yeah.
Does any of that sound familiar to you? That spiraling feeling James has.
I think it resonates with a lot of people.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging right into the complex and, let's be honest, often really distressing world of overthinking.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't just about having, too many thoughts or being a worrier. It feels like a much deeper internal struggle, something that so many of us face, and it can honestly hijack our lives.
It absolutely can. What you described with James, that is incredibly common. That sort of recursive loop, feeling trapped in your own head. It's a challenge that, well, it touches almost everyone at some point.
Right.
And for many, it's a constant, really exhausting battle.
So our mission today, and we're drawing a lot from Nick Trenton's book, Stop Overthinking,
Wow.
is to really unpack what overthinking is. We want to explore its causes, which might surprise you.
Yeah, often not what you think.
The real-world consequences,
Yeah.
which go way beyond just a busy mind, and crucially give you practical strategies and mindset shifts to find some clarity, some quiet, some calm.
The goal is definitely actionable steps,
Right.
not just theory.
Exactly. We want to go beyond just knowing what it is
Yeah.
to giving you steps you can take, maybe even today, to get back in the driver's seat.
Okay.
So let's start right there. What exactly is overthinking? We're talking about that relentless cycle, right?
Yeah.
Excessively analyzing, evaluating, ruminating, worrying.
Yeah, to the point where it genuinely impacts your mental health and you just feel like you can't switch it off.
And you mentioned something before we started, this idea of meta thought.
Yes. That's crucial. It's not just thinking, it's thinking about your thoughts. You become aware of your own mental processes and you're constantly trying to control them or dissect them or steer them.
Wow.
It feels like a struggle, Competing impulses inside your head. You're questioning, doubting, analyzing, sometimes judging your own thoughts. Maybe you dislike those random, unwelcome thoughts that pop up.
Yeah.
And you feel this compulsion to return to the same idea over and over, even if it's something in the past you literally can't change.
Okay, so if I get this right, it's not just me thinking a lot about, say, a project for work. It's that I'm also thinking about why I'm thinking about it so much, or judging how I'm thinking.
Exactly. That's the meta level. That's the overthinking part. It adds this whole other layer of stress and analysis.
Wow, okay. That's a really useful distinction. And the consequences. You said they're significant. This isn't just like a mental annoyance.
Oh, far from it. When your brain perceives a threat, and with overthinking, that threat is often just your own thought. Your body's HPA axis gets stimulated.
Okay, the HPA axis. Remind me.
Think of it as your body's central command center for stress. It kicks off this whole cascade of neurotransmitters and hormones, like cortisol, that gear you up for fight or flight.
So wait, even just the thought of a threat can trigger a full-blown physical stress response?
Yeah.
Like our body sometimes can't tell the difference between a real tiger and just a worried thought about a tiger? That's kind of wild.
Yeah. It is wild, but that's exactly it. Physically, this constant state of alert can show up as a racing heart, maybe persistent headaches, nausea, muscle tension. You might feel chronically tired, dry mouth, dizziness, breathing faster, maybe trembling or sweating, even digestive issues. And over time, it can suppress your immune system, affect memory.
Wow.
And unfortunately, if this stress becomes chronic, day in, day out, it really can lay the groundwork for longer-term health problems like cardiovascular disease, digestive disorders, or chronic insomnia. It's serious stuff.
And then there's the mental and psychological side. Because I know for me, just that feeling of being constantly on edge,
Yeah.
it's just draining.
Utterly draining. Yeah, you're looking at mental exhaustion, feeling perpetually keyed up, nervous, irritable, maybe finding it really hard to concentrate.
Yeah, focus goes out the window.
Totally. Lack of motivation often follows. It can mess with your libido, your appetite, even give you nightmares. And for some people, it can spiral into deeper issues like depression or just this profound sense of apathy, like what's the point? You just feel out of control.
And if we zoom out This has ripple effects.
Right.
It doesn't just stay inside us. It affects our relationships, our work.
Precisely. It can really strain relationships because, patience wears thin, irritability goes up. It can definitely lead to poor performance at work or school.
Makes sense.
People might start pulling back socially because it just feels too hard. Sometimes it can even contribute to addictive behaviors like using substances or other things to try and cope.
Way to numb out.
Yeah, exactly. And ultimately, someone constantly tangled up in stress and anxiety can start to lose that sense of meaning and joy in life. It's a really heavy toll.
And here's where it gets, well, kind of daunting, right? All these things feed each other. It creates this vicious cycle. So if the overthinking floods your body with stress hormones, like cortisol,
Hmm.
does that then make you more edgy and cause even more overthinking? It feels like a trap.
It is absolutely a self-perpetuating loop. It's a trap. The chronic stress makes you more sensitive, more susceptible to those anxious thoughts, which then reinforces the negative self-talk. See? I am messing up. That, in turn, can lead to poor choices, maybe staying up all night stewing or eating badly to feel better for a moment,
Comfort food.
Yeah.
which then just worsens your physical and mental state, creating even more stuff to worry about. It just spirals downwards. It's a negative feedback loop that's really tough to break once it gets going.
Okay, so why? Why do our brains get stuck in this loop?
Mm.
We often just think, oh, it's a bad habit, or that's just my personality, I'm a worrier, or maybe it's a specific mental illness. But you're saying something crucial. The causes of the overthinking are seldom the actual focus of the overthinking itself.
That's a really profound distinction, yeah. If we go back to James for a second.
Okay.
His overthinking wasn't really about the mole or figuring out the absolute perfect psychologist. Those were just the symptoms, the results of this underlying tendency to overthink.
Ah,
The source material, Trenton's book, really highlights this. Even if one specific worry resolves, like the mole turns out fine, another worry will likely pop up to take its place.
because the root issue wasn't the mole.
Exactly. The issue itself was never the root cause. And that raises a huge question, right? If we're always focused on the symptoms, how do we ever get to the roots?
That makes so much sense. It's like taking aspirin for a fever, but never asking why you have the fever in the first place.
Precisely.
So this secret ingredient behind why we overthink, it's not just one thing. It's this mix, this interaction of our genetics, our environment, and these mental models we have. It's nature and nurture.
Exactly right. Both working together. And, the genetic part is interesting. There's research suggesting a link between genes on chromosome 9 and anxiety.
Okay.
And this is really important, it's a predisposition, not a destiny. The heritability for anxiety disorders is estimated at only about 26%.
Only 26%. So that leaves.
A massive 74%. That's explained by environment, life experiences, which is
Oh.
actually quite empowering because that's where we have a lot more influence.
Yeah, that 74% is where we can make a difference.
Mhm.
That feels hopeful. So let's talk about those environmental factors. Stress is part of life. We know that. There's good stress, eustress, that motivates us.
Right, like a deadline.
But when it's too much, it becomes distress, and it just wears us down. There's even hypostress, like boredom stress.
Yeah, lack of stimulation can be stressful too. But the key is that persistent, overwhelming distress that leads to burnout, no question.
And beyond just the daily grind, there are bigger environmental things like traumatic life events.
Oh, definitely. Research has found really strong links between things like major depression, generalized anxiety, and events like bereavement, divorce, major accidents, being a victim of crime, poverty, experiencing racism.
Wow.
And earlier studies, going way back, showed that childhood trauma, abuse, neglect are significant predictors for adult mental health issues. Some research even suggests that early trauma can kind of sensitize the stress response system.
Meaning you react more strongly to smaller stressors later on.
Potentially, yes. Your physiological response might be heightened.
And it's not just the huge life events, right? Our immediate surroundings, our homes, our offices, they play a role too, sometimes in subtle ways.
Huge role. Think about clutter, the quality of light, weird smells, constant noise, even the colors around you, or the difficult people you have to interact with daily. All these things can subtly ratchet up or down your baseline anxiety levels.
So that advice to clean your room when you feel overwhelmed, there's actually something to that.
There really is. Our external space often reflects our internal state, and tidying up can, weirdly, feel like tidying your mind a bit.
Okay. And then we have behavioral factors. You mentioned that overthinking sometimes gives us this illusion of control, like we're doing something with the problem.
Yes, like endlessly analyzing James's mole, or rereading that email for the 10th time, checking for tone.
Guilty.
Right. It feels productive, but it's more like scratching an itch that just won't go away. You get a tiny bit of temporary relief, maybe, but the underlying issue, the itch, is still there, maybe even worse.
And anxiety is sneaky, isn't it? It feeds on our deepest fears.
Oh, it's very clever. Our overthinking often latches onto specific triggers, maybe insecurities about our abilities, worries about relationships, fears about health. And the paradox is, if you try to just suppress those thoughts, just push them away when they're running wild.
Don't think about the pink elephant.
Exactly. It often backfires. Makes you think about them even more intensely.
And some of the easiest things to potentially change are our daily habits, right? The small stuff.
Absolutely. Things that seem minor, like constantly checking social media or eating poorly, not drinking enough water, having a really messed up sleep schedule, these can subtly but significantly feed anxiety and that tendency to overthink. This is often the low-hanging fruit, the stuff you can start tackling right away.
Okay, so all this genetics, environment, behavior,
Yeah.
it brings us back to what you call the secret ingredient, our mental models, how we interpret things.
Yes, how we interpret and engage with events, our sort of default cognitive style, that inner dialogue we have. You know the saying, it's not the load, but how you carry it?
Yeah.
Two people can face the exact same situation, say a challenging project at work, and appraise it completely differently. If you tend to have an external locus of control, meaning you feel like life just happens to you,
Like things are out of your hands.
right, you might see that project as a huge threat. Someone else might see it as an exciting challenge. Same event, totally different experience, leading to different levels of anxiety and overthinking. It's all about how we frame it.
So what's the takeaway here for you listening right now? You can't change your genes, obviously. You can't eliminate all stress from life. That's impossible.
Life happens.
But you are absolutely empowered to change your outlook, your sense of control, your daily habits. You can work on your self-esteem, set better boundaries.
Yeah.
The really profound message here is overthinking is optional.
That's the core of it.
It's a destructive behavior, yes, but it's when you can actively choose to stop. And that feels incredibly hopeful, doesn't it?
It really should. It puts the power back in your hands.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the why. But when that overthinking storm hits, you need a lifeboat, right? Something practical right now. That's where the 4 A's of stress management come in. It's a beautifully simple but really powerful framework.
It really is super practical. The first A is avoid.
Avoid, okay.
Can you simply walk away from unnecessary stress? Like maybe you realize Saturday morning grocery shopping is pure chaos and stress for you. Can you go Tuesday evening instead?
Or order online?
Or order online.
Oh.
Or perhaps, having certain relatives stay in your house for holidays is always incredibly stressful. Could they stay in a nearby hotel or Airbnb next time?
Setting a boundary.
Exactly. It's about consciously saying no to things that drain your mental energy unnecessarily, being proactive about protecting your peace.
Okay, avoid. Makes sense. But what if you can't avoid it?
Then you move to the second A, alter. This means changing the situation itself.
How so?
Well, say construction noise is driving you crazy while you're trying to work from home. Could you politely ask the crew if they could pause the really loud stuff for just 10 minutes during your important call?
Okay, direct communication.
Or maybe communicating directly with a friend whose jokes are actually kind of hurtful, using I statements like, hey, when you say X, I feel Y. Or altering your own approach. Maybe playing an audiobook drowns out the shopping mall noise, or batching all your errands into one trip instead of multiple stressful ones. It's about actively modifying the stressor.
All right, avoid, alter. What if you can't do either? The situation just is.
Then we get to the third A. Accept. And this isn't about giving up or pretending you're fine. It's about acknowledging the reality of the situation and your feelings about it.
Okay.
So let's say, your boyfriend breaks up with you via text. Awful.
Ouch.
Acceptance here means acknowledging, okay, this happened, it feels terrible, and it's okay that it feels terrible. Validating your own emotions. Then maybe calling a friend for support. Or if someone has wronged you, acceptance might involve working towards forgiveness, not for them necessarily, but to release yourself from carrying that resentment.
Right. Forgiveness is more for you.
Often, yes. Acceptance is also about reframing your inner self-talk. Instead of, I'm such an idiot for making that mistake, try, okay, I made a mistake, what can I learn? It's a release, not resignation.
Avoid, alter,
Yeah.
accept. Got it. What's the last A?
The fourth A is adapt. This is about making longer-term changes to your perspective, your expectations, maybe even yourself.
Okay, like changing how you roll with things.
Exactly. So if you're a perfectionist and constantly stressed because your standards are impossibly high, adapting means consciously working to lower those expectations to something more realistic, more self-compassionate.
That's hard work.
It is, but it's lasting change. Adapting could also mean practicing optimism, maybe keeping a gratitude list, using daily mantras to build internal resilience. It's about strengthening your inner world so you can handle life's inevitable stressors better.
Those 4 A's feel like a really solid toolkit. Avoid, alter, accept, adapt.
They really cover most situations.
Another tool you mentioned is keeping stress diaries or journals. How does that help cut through the noise when everything feels overwhelming?
Yeah, when your head feels like a swarm of bees, it's hard to know what's actually stinging you.
Good analogy, yeah.
A stress diary helps you become a detective of your own stress. For each time you feel stressed, you jot down the time, date, rate your stress level maybe 1 to 10.
Okay.
Note the feeling words anxious, overwhelmed, angry, or physical symptoms like a knot in your stomach. Maybe rate your productivity level too. Then critically, what was the stressful event or cause? How did you respond? And what was the outcome of that response?
So maybe an entry looks like Tuesday, 9:15 a.m. Stress, 7:10. Feeling, anxious, tense shoulders. Productivity, 2:10. Cause. Got that email from the boss asking for the report early. Response, started catastrophizing, couldn't focus. Outcome, felt worse. Report still not done.
Perfect example. Then after a few days or a week, you look back at these entries, you start seeing patterns. What are your most frequent triggers? How does stress impact your productivity? Are your usual responses actually helping or making things worse? What seems to be your optimal stress level for getting things done?
So it's data.
It's data, and that data helps you make really targeted, insightful changes. You move from just reacting to stress to proactively managing it. And while, traditional journaling for emotional release is great too, and gratitude journals are powerful for shifting focus, the stress diary is specifically about building that conscious awareness of your triggers and responses.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, what about when you're right in the middle of it? Like panic is setting in, thoughts are racing, you feel that spiral starting. Is there something for immediate relief?
Yes, absolutely. For those cute moments, the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique is fantastic. Think of it like hitting a mental reset button.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. How does it work?
It's designed to pull your awareness immediately back into the present moment by deliberately engaging your 5 senses. Because when you're overthinking, your mind is usually lost in the past, regrets, should-haves, or the future what-ifs, worst-case scenarios.
Right, anywhere but here and now.
Exactly. So this technique forces you to anchor yourself to the present. The steps are super simple. Wherever you are, consciously notice and name 5 things you can see around you.
Okay, 5 things I see.
Then 4 things you can physically touch or feel the texture of your chair, your feet on the floor, the fabric of your clothes.
4 things I can touch.
Then 3 things you can smell, maybe coffee, hand lotion, the air itself.
3 smells. Okay.
Then 2 things you can hear. Traffic outside, the hum of a computer, your own breathing.
2 sounds.
And finally, 1 thing you can taste. Maybe the lingering taste of toothpaste, or you take a sip of water.
1 taste. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See, touch, smell, hear, taste.
That's it. And the why behind it is pretty cool. While your brain is busy actively engaging your senses in the present, it's literally distracted from that endless loop of rumination.
It can't do both at once easily.
Pretty much. It effectively interrupts those runaway thoughts. It unhooks you from the worry track even just for a moment, giving you that crucial space to become present and calm down. It's like a circuit breaker for an overloaded mind.
I like that. A mental circuit breaker.
Okay.
Okay, so these are great for calming the immediate storm. But for real, lasting change, we need to go deeper, right? Into rewiring those underlying thought patterns, taking control of our inner world.
Exactly. And this is where approaches like cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT become so powerful. It's really about getting to the root of those distorted, unhelpful thoughts.
CDT, I've heard a lot about it.
Yeah.
What's the core idea?
The core premise is actually revolutionary in its simplicity. It's the idea that our thoughts, not necessarily the external events themselves, are what primarily influence how we see the world, how we feel emotionally, and ultimately, how we behave.
Okay, so it's our interpretation that matters most.
Precisely. Think about the concept of failure. If your core thought is something like, any failure is unbearable, and if I fail, I'm fundamentally a bad person. Well, when you inevitably fail at something small,
Which everyone does.
right, You'll feel awful. You'll probably avoid risking failure again. But what if your thought is more like, okay, failure is a normal part of learning. It's not the end of the world.
You feel disappointed maybe, but probably pick yourself up and try again.
Exactly. Or even if you truly believe, I actually value failure as a way to learn and get stronger, then failure itself becomes a motivator. Same event failing, but totally different thoughts lead to vastly different emotions and behaviors.
Wow. Okay, so the event isn't the problem. It's how we think about the event. And often those thoughts get twisted by what CBT calls cognitive distortions,
Yeah.
these unhelpful thinking patterns.
Yes, exactly. And learning to spot them is the first step. There are several common ones. For instance,
Okay.
all or nothing thinking. This is seeing things in extremes, black or white. You're either with us or against us, or I have to get this project perfect or everything will be ruined forever. There's no gray area.
Yeah, I recognize that one.
Or overgeneralization, making huge, sweeping conclusions based on limited evidence. Like, after one bad date, thinking all men, women are like this. Or if something goes wrong once, thinking this always happens to me.
Using words like always and never.
Big red flags. Then there's emotional reasoning. This is believing that because you feel something strongly, it must be objectively true. I just feel like this presentation is going to bomb, so it definitely will, even if you're well prepared.
Your feelings become facts.
Exactly. Another big one is catastrophizing. Blowing things way out of proportion. Turning a small mistake into an absolute disaster in your mind. Imagining the worst possible outcome for every little hiccup.
The sky is always falling.
Pretty much. And maybe mind reading, assuming you know what other people are thinking about you, usually something negative without any actual evidence. I know my boss thinks I'm incompetent.
Okay, so how do we start catching these in ourselves? What are the signals we should look for in our own thoughts?
Listen to your internal dialogue. Look for really strong emotional language. Pay attention to words like should, must, ought. Notice when you're making big assumptions you haven't actually tested. Or when you feel really defensive and start justifying your thoughts. If you hear yourself using extreme words or jumping to massive conclusions from small events, that's a good time to pause and ask, hang on, is this thought really accurate? Is it helpful?
Pause and question. Okay. And to help identify these patterns and what sets them off,
Yeah.
you mentioned the ABC model. Antecedent, behavior, consequence.
Yes, it's wonderfully straightforward, especially for understanding actions or habits linked to thoughts. The antecedent is the trigger, the situation, person, feeling, or thought that comes before the behavior.
Yeah, okay, the trigger.
The behavior is the action you take in response to that trigger.
The action.
And the consequence is the outcome of that behavior, positive or negative. So, for example, if you tend to overeat when stressed, stress is the antecedent A, overeating is the behavior B, and feeling sluggish or guilty afterwards is the consequence.
Okay.
Logging these ABCs helps you see the direct links really clearly. When I feel stressed, A, I tend to grab cookies, B, and then I feel bad, C. Seeing that pattern gives you specific points where you could intervene and choose a different behavior.
Like notice the stress, A, and choose to go for a walk, B instead.
Exactly, leading to a different consequence. C, like feeling calmer.
Got it. And for digging even deeper into the thoughts themselves, there's the dysfunctional thought record. Sounds a bit intense.
It sounds more clinical than it is. Think of it like keeping a detailed logbook for your challenging thoughts. It helps bring those automatic, often unconscious, negative thoughts out into the open where you can actually examine them.
So how does it work? What do you record?
You basically create columns. Date time, the situation, what actually happened, who was there, where were you. Then your automatic thoughts, what immediately popped into your head. And maybe rate how much you believe those thoughts, say 0 to 100%.
Okay, belief level.
Then your emotions, what did you feel? And how intense were those feelings? Again, maybe 0, 100%. Then, crucially, you work on generating an alternative response, a more balanced, realistic thought. And finally, the outcome. How did you feel after considering the alternative thought? Did your belief in the original thought change? Did your emotions shift?
So it's like a structured way to challenge those initial negative reactions.
Exactly. You typically fill it out after you've experienced a strong negative emotion. It's like doing a post-mortem analysis of the thought process. It helps you identify which specific cognitive distortions you tend to use and see directly how those distorted thoughts are driving your negative feelings.
Okay, so once you've gathered this data, using the diary or the thought record, and you've started spotting those patterns, those distortions, then you move to actually changing the thoughts. Cognitive restructuring.
Yes, this is where the active change happens. Cognitive restructuring is about becoming like a neutral investigator or maybe a scientist, examining your own thoughts. You gather evidence for and against them.
So not just accepting the first thought that pops into your head.
Definitely not. The process often starts with STOP. Just pause when you notice that strong negative emotion or thought. Then record the details like in the thought record. The trigger, who, where, what, your automatic thoughts, your self-talk, your emotions.
Get it down on paper or mentally note it.
Right. Then comes the critical questioning. You ask yourself things like, what's the actual evidence for this thought? What's the evidence against it? Are there any other possible explanations for this situation? Okay, what's the absolute worst that could happen? And realistically, how likely is that? And could I cope if it did? Which cognitive distortion might I be using here? What would a compassionate friend say to me about this thought? Is this thought based on reliable facts or just feelings?
That's a lot of questions, but I can see how they force you to look at it differently. Can we use that Mike example again? The guy worried about his boss. How would he use restructuring?
Okay, so Mike's initial thought record showed. Situation, bumped into boss, couldn't answer quickly, boss laughed. Automatic thoughts, he thinks I'm a failure, everyone's watching me. Belief, 90%. Emotions, panic, 80%. Shame, 70%.
Yeah.
So in restructuring, Mike would challenge those thoughts. Evidence for, he thinks I'm a failure. Maybe none, actually. Evidence against. Boss is usually friendly. Other explanations for the laugh. Maybe the boss just remembered something funny or wasn't even laughing at him. Worst case. Boss thinks he was flustered for a moment. Could he cope? Yes. Distortion. Mind reading. Catastrophizing. By generating these alternative, more balanced thoughts like, there's no real evidence he was judging me. Maybe I'm exaggerating how much people monitor me. My boss actually seems happy with my work overall. One small awkward moment isn't the end of the world. Mike might find his belief in the original failure thought drops way down.
And the panic and shame would reduce too.
Exactly. Maybe panic goes from 80% to 30%, shame disappears. He now has a choice. He can consciously choose to focus on the more realistic, less distressing thought pattern.
That's incredibly powerful. Seeing how you can actively dial down the emotional intensity by changing the thought. But what about those really deep-seated beliefs? The ones that just feel true in your bones, even when your logical brain argues against them, like I'm unlovable or I'm fundamentally flawed.
Yeah, those core beliefs can be really stubborn. Rational argument sometimes isn't enough. That's where behavioral experiments come in.
Behavioral experiments. So you actually test the belief in the real world.
Pretty much. They provide practical experiential proof, which can sometimes be more convincing than just thinking about it. So if you have a core belief like everyone dislikes me,
Okay.
you first clarify it, then create a testable hypothesis. Maybe if I smile and say hello to 3 colleagues today, at least one will respond positively.
Make it specific.
Yes. Then you design the experiment. What exactly will you do, when, where? Then you run the experiment, actually do it. Then analyze the results objectively. Did people respond positively, negatively, neutrally? And based on that real-world data, you adjust your original belief. It's about actively seeking experiences that challenge the old narrative.
What about fears that are harder to test directly? Like maybe intrusive thoughts or that feeling of being damaged?
Good question. For things like intrusive thoughts, you might use a survey method, like looking online carefully for accounts from others or talking to trusted friends or a therapist. Discovering that many people have similar weird thoughts can normalize them and reduce their power. It makes them seem less uniquely bad or dangerous.
Realizing you're not alone with it.
Exactly. And for those more nebulous feelings, like feeling damaged, perhaps, after childhood abuse, you might design discovery experiments. These aim to gather new information or experiences that contradict that feeling, perhaps engaging in activities that build competence, or forming healthy relationships that provide corrective emotional experiences. It's about actively building evidence against the ingrained fear.
Okay, this makes sense. It's about not just thinking differently, but acting differently to prove the old thoughts wrong.
Precisely. Action can be a powerful antidote to rumination.
And speaking of our internal world, let's touch on self-talk. That constant commentary running in our heads, our own private radio station.
Yeah, and that station can be playing helpful tunes, neutral background noise, or unfortunately, some really harsh criticism.
Right, negative self-talk.
Negative self-talk often stems from those core beliefs we talked about. It's usually got this nasty emotional edge, shame, self-doubt, just plain meanness. You're such an idiot. No wonder you're alone. You'll never succeed. CBT helps here too by identifying the triggers for this talk, understanding the emotional theme behind it, and consciously working to replace it with self-compassion and more realistic self-assessment.
And that leads into self-scripting as a way to deliberately cultivate positive self-talk.
Exactly. Self-scripting is like writing your own positive inner dialogue ahead of time. It sounds simple, but it's remarkably effective.
How does it work?
You basically create an encouraging, realistic self-talk script when you're feeling calm and resourceful, like a personal pep talk or mantra. Then, when you anticipate or find yourself in a stressful situation where that negative voice usually pipes up, you consciously pull out and use your positive script. Maybe you combine it with some deep breaths or visualization.
Can you give an example? Like, for public speaking anxiety.
Sure, your negative talk might be, you're going to freeze, everyone will think you're stupid. Your pre-written self-script might be something like, okay, take a breath. You've got this. Giving a speech isn't the end of the world. You're prepared. You know this material. You've done it well lots of times before. Just focus on connecting with the audience.
So you're consciously choosing the internal soundtrack.
You are. You're taking conscious control over that inner dialogue, deliberately shifting your focus to what's helpful, what's empowering, what's true, instead of just letting that automatic inner critic run the show. It's incredibly empowering.
This feels like a really good transition.
Yeah.
We've covered understanding overthinking, immediate coping tools, and now these deeper CBT techniques for rewiring thoughts. This brings us towards a bigger goal, right? Not just managing anxiety, but cultivating a whole new attitude, becoming someone who feels calmer, more in control, more resilient overall.
Exactly. This next part is less about specific techniques and more about adopting a kind of manifesto, a set of foundational attitudes that really lead to a sense of mastery over your body, your mind, your emotions. It's about consciously choosing where you direct your focus and energy.
Okay, I'm ready. What's the first foundational attitude?
The first one is huge, and it echoes some Stoic philosophy. Focus on what you can control, not on what you can't.
Sounds simple, but oh boy, is it hard to practice sometimes.
It really is, because our minds naturally get snagged on the worries about things outside our influence. We feel powerless when we dwell there. Think about that minor car accident example again. The other driver is yelling, the car is dented, you can't control their anger, you can't magically undo the dent right now.
Right. Getting upset doesn't help.
Exactly. Focusing on what you can control means getting their insurance details, making sure everyone's okay, calmly removing yourself from their negativity. You refuse to take the bait. You choose your response and focus your energy where it's actually productive. It's about conserving your mental energy for what matters.
Okay, focus on what you can control. What's the second attitude?
Number 2 is focus on what you can do, not on what you can't.
This feels related but distinct, more action-oriented.
Exactly. Action has this wonderfully clarifying, sobering effect. If someone dreams of opening a bar, but they hit a roadblock, maybe they can't get the specific license they need, instead of getting stuck lamenting what they can't do.
Which leads to rumination.
They pause and ask, okay, given the situation, what can I do? I still want to create a great community space. And maybe they pivot and decide to open an amazing cafe instead. This attitude turns setbacks from dead ends into detours, into opportunities for creative problem solving. It keeps you moving forward.
I like that, turning adversity into opportunity. Okay, number 3.
Third, focus on what you have, not on what you don't.
Gratitude, basically, combating that feeling of lack.
It's exactly that. Actively appreciating your blessings, your resources, your strengths, the good things already present in your life instead of constantly dwelling on what's missing or what others have. It's a profound perspective shift. When you're focusing on abundance, even small abundance, there's just less mental space for anxiety about scarcity. It's very grounding.
Makes sense. Okay, 4th attitude. This feels like a big one for overthinkers.
It is. Focus on the present, not the past or the future.
Yes. Because anxiety loves to live in those other time zones.
It absolutely thrives there. Overthinking replays past mistakes, regrets, what-ifs about things you literally cannot change. Or it projects into the future, spinning out a million stressful possibilities that haven't happened and probably won't.
Wasting energy.
Totally. Conscious awareness, effective action, genuine experience, they only happen right now, in the present moment. Think about someone, maybe with a history of difficult relationships, who finds a wonderful new partner. But instead of enjoying the now, They're stuck regretting past choices or worrying constantly about future rejection. They're missing the good thing that's right in front of them.
Yeah.
By deliberately pulling your awareness back to today, to this moment, what's actually happening right now, you drastically narrow the playing field for overthinking.
Yeah.
You put your mental energy where it can actually be useful.
Focus on the present.
Uh-huh.
Powerful. Okay, and the fifth and final attitude.
Number 5 is focus on what you need, not just on what you want.
Needs versus wants. This sounds like simplifying, prioritizing.
It is. It helps you cut through the mental clutter, especially around decisions. Let's say you're house hunting. It's overwhelming. Place A has a great garden, but B is closer to work. But C has nicer finishes, but A is cheaper. You can get paralyzed.
Decision fatigue is real.
Totally. Focusing on needs means asking, okay, what are my absolute non-negotiables? Maybe it's under a certain price, a safe neighborhood, and enough bedrooms. Suddenly, you've narrowed the field. You can evaluate options against those core needs first. Wants are great, but knowing your needs builds resilience. You're less likely to be thrown off course by every shiny object and less prone to disappointment if you don't get every single want. It reduces decision paralysis and the overthinking that goes with it.
Needs over wants for clarity. We have these 5 attitudes: control, action, gratitude, presence. Needs feel like a really solid foundation for a calmer mindset.
And you really are. They guide your focus.
And these feed right into mastering your emotions, which you mentioned earlier with that technique called opposite action. Can you unpack that a bit more? It sounds intriguing.
Yeah, it's a powerful technique from dialectical behavior therapy, actually, but it fits perfectly here. The first step in any emotion regulation is usually emotional acceptance, just noticing and allowing the feeling without judging it or immediately trying to get rid of it. Okay, I'm feeling really angry right now.
Just observe it.
Right. Then you identify the emotion clearly, and you also identify the action urge that goes with that emotion. Anger might urge you to yell, slam doors, send a nasty text. Fear might urge you to avoid, hide, run away.
Okay. Identify the urge.
Then you make a conscious choice to act opposite to that urge, at least for a short period. It's crucial that this is a choice, not suppression or pretending. You still acknowledge the feeling is there.
So using the car accident example again. If you're feeling rage and the urge is to yell at the other driver.
Opposite action would mean consciously choosing, maybe just for the next 10 minutes, to do the opposite. Speak in a soft, calm voice. Try to de-escalate the situation. Stay neutral. Maybe even try to find something small to validate in their perspective. Like, yeah, this is a frustrating situation for both of us, even if you think they're totally wrong.
So you're not denying the anger, but you're choosing not to act on its initial impulse.
Precisely. You're saying, okay, anger, you can sit here in the passenger seat, but you don't get to grab the steering wheel right now. And what's amazing is that acting opposite to the urge often changes the emotion itself. Acting calm can actually make you feel calmer. Acting brave can reduce fear.
Wow. So it's not just managing the behavior, it can actually shift the feeling.
Often, yes. It gives you this incredible sense of agency, of being in conscious control. It leads to quicker relief from overwhelming emotions and makes it much easier to let go of those ruminations fueled by the initial intense feeling.
You're taking the wheel back.
Taking the wheel back. I love that. Okay, so we have really covered a lot today in this deep dive into decoding overthinking. We started by defining it, that excessive analysis, worry, rumination.
And that key idea of meta-thought, thinking about your thoughts.
Right. Then we explored its really profound, rippling consequences, the physical toll, the mental exhaustion, the social fallout, that whole vicious cycle. We dug into the roots, moving beyond just bad habits to understand that complex interplay of, maybe a slight genetic predisposition, but much more importantly, environmental stressors.
Like trauma or even just our cluttered desks.
Yeah, and our daily habits, and crucially, those mental models, how we interpret everything. Realizing the cause is often not the thing we're actually worrying about.
And then we got practical. We talked about immediate release strategies. The 4 A's: avoid, alter, accept, adapt. Using stress diaries to gain that crucial self-awareness. And that fantastic 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding technique for instant calm.
Then we went deeper into really rewiring those thought patterns using the power of CBT fundamentals, learning to spot cognitive distortions using tools like the ABC model and the dysfunctional thought record to analyze our thinking.
And then actively changing it through cognitive restructuring, challenging those thoughts, and even using behavioral experiments to test out those stubborn core beliefs in the real world.
Plus transforming that inner critic with positive self-scripting.
And finally, we looked at cultivating that mindset of mastery. Adopting those 5 foundational attitudes, focusing on control, on action, on gratitude, on the present moment, and on needs over wants.
And wrapping it up with the empowering technique of opposite action, choosing how you respond, regardless of the initial emotional urge.
It's been a journey.
It really has. And the core idea, the thing we really hope you take away from all this, is that overthinking, it's not your natural state. It's not inevitable. It's ultimately a destructive behavior pattern that you can actively choose to change and stop. Stress, yeah, that's part of life, but chronic overthinking about it, that's optional. You genuinely have the power to change this.
That's such an empowering note to end on. When you consciously choose to manage your internal landscape, you're not just, reducing anxiety day to day. You're actively building a life where your brain works for you, not against you.
Couldn't have said it better.
So after this deep dive today, here's something to think about. What's the first small, deliberate step you will take, maybe even today, to start taking charge of your own narrative?